So we are on Learning Target 8, Day 2. Our first piece of information is a vocab word, and it's the golden rule of algebra. Now technically there are about 4 different properties that fit under this kind of category of the golden rule of algebra, but they all boil down to whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other. An equation, the equal sign means that both sides are equal to each other. So if you take an equation that is true, like 2 equals 2, and you multiply one side of the equation by 3, let's say, but you don't do anything to the other side of the equation, you just made it false. You didn't keep it balanced. The same thing is true when you have a variable. If you have 3 plus a equals 12, and you subtract 3 from this side of the equation to cancel, to solve for a, but you don't do anything to the other side of the equation, you now have an answer that is not true. A does not equal 12, because as we know, 3 plus 12 does not equal 12. So make sure that you are always following this golden rule of algebra whenever you encounter an equation. The way that we're going to practice this golden rule of algebra is not by solving equations, but by creating equations. So what I'm hoping that you will learn through this process of creating equations is that when we are given the equation, we just use this process backwards to get to the solution. So we're going to start off, again, we've got our 3-column notes, so we're going to put the process in the rightmost column, and we're going to start with what looks like an answer, w equals 3, and we're going to modify that using the golden rule of algebra to create an equation, 5w minus 1 equals 14. I left some space in between the two so we can kind of show our steps on how we're getting there. So the first thing that I want to do, step 1, is use order of operations to determine which operation to use first. And the way that we will do this is by looking at our final answer. So thinking to yesterday's lesson when we were checking answers and we substituted a value in to see if it was true, we're kind of thinking that same thing. If I have 5w minus 1 and I substitute 3 in, what would I do to that 3 first? Would I multiply it by the 5 or would I subtract the 1? Well, order of operations tells me I would multiply by the 5 first. So coming back up to my w equals 3 equation, I'm going to start by multiplying 5 on both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to take 5 times w, and using the golden rule, whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. I'm going to multiply 3 by 5 as well. So I'm going to simplify that. 3 times 5 gives me 15. All right, so now it's kind of looking like my equation at the bottom, but I've got a minus 1 on the left-hand side. So again, using order of operations, multiply, then subtract. I'm going to come back up to my equation and subtract 1 from both sides. Simplifying the right-hand side, I have 5w minus 1 equals 14, which was the equation that I was asked to create. So, step 2, use the golden rule of algebra to perform the operation. I actually missed this process right here when I multiplied both sides of the equal sign by 5, and then I just repeated. So I went back and figured out what I would do next using order of operations. So step 3, repeat as necessary. All right, so what I would like you to do here is I'm going to actually end this video. So what I would like you to do before you start the next video is use the process in the right-hand side to see if you can create the equation, start the next video, and check your answer.